Let's see if this can hit 20 million. Oh, 15? What you got for me? Oh, 19 points. We capped it out. Oh, this definitely is hitting 20 million now. So I get this question a lot about that 19 million DPS build. People saying, yo, it's not hitting that amount of damage when I use it. Is it still viable? Has it been nerfed? And I will tell you, this build still is one of the hardest hitting, if not the hardest hitting DPS build at 1.5 million. Remember, I'm saying 1.5 million, and the way I have it spec is for pure DPS. And if you guys notice in the range, you guys need to make sure whenever you test something in the range, you're testing with the same exact stats and making sure everything's procced. And that's including all the procs you can get from whatever specialization you're using. For me, I was using that gunner specialization. And what does that gunner specialization do? Well, when you get a kill, as soon as you reload for 5 seconds, you get 5% rate of fire. So that increases your DPS, obviously. So you just got to make sure everything is procced, you're full stack, and you should be seeing that number. It should cap out at 19.78 because that is the cap at the range. So ideally, this build is probably pushing 20 million DPS, close to around 20. And that's why we can call it a 20 million DPS build. As you guys are seeing here, this thing is a shredder. So ideally with this build, you're gonna see me run it one of two ways, right? First, I'm either using the Vector or I'm using the ACS-12 or the named rifle, the Rock and Roll. The reason why is because you want to build that stack. At max stack, I'm getting the maximum potential damage with this build, and that's why when you test it in a closed setting like the range, it's good to see what the potential of this could be. But once you're in the open world setting like this, you want to be able to see, hey, does it really shred these named enemies as fast as it does when I'm in the range? And you guys saw, we shredded that first boss insanely fast. And I'll show you a boss right here in a second. But look at these these elite enemies, literally eating through them. The amount of damage, the body shots are crazy. And then if you look at this boss right here, look at this. Ooh, look at this. Just the amount of insane. Look how fast that boss dropped, right? So that is just something for you to keep in mind. This build does work not only in the range, but also it works in the open world, as you guys saw. But let's get into the build so you can see how I have it set up. So if you haven't guessed it already, well, we are running one of my favorite specializations, and that's the gunner class, because it does give you that 10% armor on kill, alongside a bunch of other benefits, like allowing me to use the Banshee Pulse, and also getting every time I reload, I get that fast rate of fire for 5 seconds, right? So definitely something that I do enjoy from this class. A lot of really good benefits, but you guys can pick whatever specialization you want. I personally like the gunner class. For the weapon, we are running the Dark Winter. If you guys know, this used to be a Dark Zone exclusive. You can get this in the open world now. I think I got one from a bounty in the last manhunt. So here we go. We have the Dark Winter, has 80,000 damage on this one. 1380 RPM with 45 round mag. Now I do have 13% weapon damage on here, so that's from the 13th level expertise, but obviously this build was already hitting 19.7 million when we first put the video out. So this is definitely hitting around 20 million now, but it does cap out at the range, just as the range caps out at that, so you won't ever see any more higher numbers than that. But you guys can see the crits and stuff that we got at the range was pretty impressive. So we have SMG damage, crit chance, damage targets out of cover, Puff Perfect Killer. This only comes on the Dark Winter. Killing an enemy with a critical hit grants 50% critical damage for 10 seconds. And then we have critical hit chance scope on here. We have 20 rounds in the 45 magazine slot. We have 5% critical hit chance on the underbarrel, and then 5% critical hit chance on the suppressor. Ideally, this is how you want to have it, because you want to have the build the same exact me. Now, I pair that up with the ACS, the named ACS, the Rock and Roll. If you don't have the Rock and Roll, use the regular ACS-12. We have shotgun damage, damage to armor, damage targets out of cover, and then perfectly extra gives me 50% magazine capacity, so I have 30 in the magazine. Now, what I will tell you, if you guys don't have this one, run the ACS-12, same stats, but then instead of the talent, I would put preservation. So, you know, a little bit of survivability you get there. So these two are my go-tos for this build. So we're running the Coyote Mask. Now the Coyote Mask is amazing, especially for close range builds, right? Because remember, we get weapon damage on here, crit chance, crit damage. We put critical hit damage on the mod, but look at this. Pack Instinct. Any enemy within 0 to 15 meters gives me 25% critical damage, and I'm going to be getting that 25% 95% of the time, because a lot of the fights with this build, you want to be close and personal, so that extra 25% critical damage on a build where I'm almost capped at 60% crit chance, it's amazing. Now anything from 15 to 25 meters is 10% crit hit damage, 10% critical chance, so it's not bad. And you're pretty much not going to be hitting thing further than 25 meters because you're running an SMG and a shotgun. So remember, your allies do share this buff, so that's a good thing. If you run this in a group, works great too. So for the chest piece, we're running the Striker Harness. Now what this does is the 2-piece gives us 15% weapon handling, which is going to work great with helping us control the vector. We have the 15% rate of fire, which very good on the vector, you know, we're a little bit faster. And then Striker's Gamble, weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. 1 stack loss per second, 0 to 50, and 2 stacks from 50 to 100. Now we have armor on here, we have critical damage mod, and then I like running the chest piece because it increases max stack from 100 to 200. So that means we have a 200 stack, and then each stack is worth 0.65, so it's actually really good. So that's why, personally, I think this actually works really good, and it creates some of the hardest hitting builds in the game. For the holster, we're in the Picaro's holster. This is gonna give us 10% skill haste. We also get 170,000 armor, we have critical damage, and then weapon damage on there. So that's how we're about to get some survivability. We're sitting at 1.5 million, but we're still able to hit very hard with this weapon. For our second piece of Striker battle gear, we have the Striker knee pads. This has weapon damage, critical hit damage. For the gloves is our third piece of Striker's battle gear. We have 170,000 armor and then critical hit chance. And then for the backpack, we have our final and fourth piece of Strikers. We have armor, critical damage, and critical damage. Now, what the backpack talent does is increases total weapon damage gained per stack of Striker's Gamble from 0.65 to 1%. So that means you can have up to 200% extra weapon damage on this build at a full stack. And that's what's crazy about it. And that's why you're able to put out those insane numbers when you do have a full stack. If we go check out the stats, 57% crit chance, 140% crit damage, 70% headshot damage. Remember, we have that 10% damage strikes out of cover because it's on the weapon already. And then if you go to our thing, we're still getting about 153,000 armor on kill, sitting at 1.5 million armor. We go to the inventory, you'll see we run the Defender drone. I think it works great, and the Banshee Pulse is great because it causes the enemy to be disoriented and allows me to move around, get in cover if I need to. So these two together work great. But yeah, this build right here is an absolute monster, and you guys saw should be pushing 20 million if the DPS in the range goes up, but that's the max value you can get. But yeah, I'm pretty sure with this, especially even if I would get this at 20 expertise, 100% should be hitting around 20 million DPS. But yeah, this build is an absolute beast. I think you guys will enjoy it. Seeing those crits for 1 million plus in the range is pretty impressive. And when you test it, now I will tell you, you will take a lot of damage, so you have to play this right, because if you don't, you're going to go down quick. So the way you play this build is going to be key to how well it does. We're going to wrap it up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Nothing but skills out. Take it easy, everybody.